get over here. All right. All right, Shalom. Oh, so sad. This is the last lesson of the month. I mean, I'm just so I wasn't going to include open aggression. I was just going to focus on anger. But the father said, no, you put open aggression there. So this may be the actual last lesson of the series. So you may have something totally new when we come back. Oh, your keyboard, huh? All right. Favorite question. Remember what we talked about last week?
Ken?
What did we talk about?
Well, last week, Moreh, we talked about fear, that fear is a human emotion. Fear is like underneath anger, and it causes anxiety and worry and sadness and loss and disappointment and discouragement. And it also has physical ramifications like, muscle tension, things of that nature. And also that false information causes fear. It causes like a physical sensation. We went over First John 4, like 4:18, and fear also in 2 Timothy 2:12, if we endure. And fear is not doing what you're supposed to do. And that also fear is bondage. We went over Romans 8:15, that's bondage, and also Hebrews 2:15, which is bondage.
All right. So what other than she wrote all that down. She was ready.
Okay.
What else did we talk about? We talked about one other thing that was important. Let somebody else answer. Let somebody else answer.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm done.
Come on now. It was very important. That was really, y'all remember? What about emotional abuse? Oh, okay. Uh-huh. All right. Well, let's just go over it again then. All right. Well, first we gotta do the rules. You know that. Please keep your mic muted except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to speak. There is a feature on Zoom in the meeting room where you can raise your hand if you have a question. All questions must be on the topic. And this, so everybody knows, it's this not excluding anybody. This is in-house and online. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. Don't do that. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. These rules are due to time and the recordings of the lessons. These are live teachings. We must give the Moreh enough time to complete the lesson. This will be mixed with discussions to help build one another. Please do not abuse the time. All right. So, like the Akuti talked about, we did talk about fear first. We said typically one of the primary emotions, fear can be found underneath the anger. Fear includes things like anxiety and worry. We can also view fear as having an attitude of anxiety or distress caused by concern over a threat to one's future. Now, scripture provides numerous examples of situations in which fear is experienced. It declares, however, that Elohim alone is to be feared, and moments of human fear can be opportunities for deepening faith in him. And then we talked about how to manage that fear. So that solving the problem of fear requires deliberate and careful thought. The thought process includes several stages. One, accept your fear. Accept that this feeling exists. It is real. Do not deny or repress it. Number two, identify the occasion for your fear. Feelings cannot be wished away. Feelings are often involuntary. They are the natural response to messages sent to the body by the brain, which is reacting to perceived danger. Since a message may or may not be accurate, the problem is not the emotion you feel, but the reason you feel it. How real is this danger that causes you to feel afraid? And like everything else that we were talking about, I said, interpret the occasion for your fear in the light of Elohim's word. We always talk about putting the Father in the midst of all of that, right? All right. Then we talked about emotions. We went to emotional abuse, right? So that emotional abuse is any abusive behavior that isn't physical, which may include verbal aggression, intimidation, manipulation, humiliation, which most often unfolds as a pattern of behavior over time that aims to diminish another person's sense of identity, dignity, and self-worth, and which often results in anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts or behaviors, and post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. We had a little list up there, and the first three things that were highlighted, we said were associated with passive-aggressive behavior, right? Blaming, shaming, and sarcasm. Then we focus on the rest of them, which were silent treatment, scapegoating, blame shifting, and forced isolation. These were things that can be brought on by emotional abuse. And then we said that the emotional life that scripture commands for us as a believer is not solely one of self-control, nor of emotional denial. We are supposed to experience peace in relation to Elohim, as well as joy, hope, and gratitude. And we said rejoicing is even commanding. And that's what we just did, right? All right. The last slide was about suppression. See, this was a quick review this time. There are many reasons people choose to suppress their emotions. You might have been exposed to damaging effects and vow to never let such a terrible emotion control you. You might have learned from past experiences that no good ever comes from anger. It seems that anger only produces more conflict and more problems, so it's just easier to not make things into a big deal. Or you might have perfectionistic tendencies and find yourself driven to keep up a certain image, no matter what is actually going on under the surface. If you suppress your emotions, you might find yourself questioning the validity of your emotions. You probably devalue your opinions and defer to those who are louder and more outspoken. You might shy away from potentially difficult conversations because you don't want to cause trouble. Exposing personal problems or needs is also a terrifying prospect because you're supposed to be the happy and helpful person in your relationships. Now, the key to figuring out if you suppress your emotions is the question of avoidance. And choosing not to say anything when you are hurt, upset, or have an opinion, are you avoiding something? Is your fear of potential repercussions driving you to stuff down, suppress, and pretend that you don't have any strong emotions? Ultimately, suppression is an attempt to avoid pain. The problem is that ignoring or hiding emotions doesn't make it go away. It continues to grow and spread in the unseen parts of your interior world. It is at best a short-term solution that puts off painful and uncomfortable interactions until tomorrow. Not to mention the fact that you miss out on the potential growth and deep connections you could experience by engaging in those uncomfortable conversations. And this is where we also said that you are holding on to or trying to suppress something that has happened in the past or the present. And because of this suppression, it shapes how you feel. It shapes your reaction to something and your response in a negative way. That's why we keep talking about emotions, right? That's why we kept having that same definition up there. Now we focus on the negative because these are the things that feed these negative or ruachs or spirits that keep us distracted from the Father. And with these distractions, we can tend to get passive aggressive, assertive, and what we'll see today is downright open aggressive. Right? Now we're gonna get to it. Any questions so far? No, I know. All right, so let's talk about your temper. Okay. A person's state of mind seen in terms of their being angry or calm. And similarly, we want to look at it's like that. We want to look at your temperament, your disposition, and the mind and the spirit. Right? Temper is also categorized as a person's usual character or temporary frame of mind. The term often refers to a temporary state of anger, which scripture insists must be brief and controlled. Let's take a look at an example of that. People who kept their temper under provocation. Elohim's good purpose. This is Genesis 50:15-21. Now, when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, it may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him. So they sent a message to Joseph saying, your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin because they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of Elohim, of your father. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell before him and said, behold, we are your servants. But Joseph said to them, do not fear, for am I in the place of Elohim? As for you, you meant evil against me, but Elohim meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Now, talking about looking at the glass half full, right? We all know what happened to Joseph and all the things that he went through, right? But Joseph had plenty of opportunity to, really do some damage if he wanted to, or let everything that happened to him distract him into the point where he could have been passive aggressive or assertive. Right? But he didn't. He knew that the Father was with him. So with that, what I'm trying to convey to everyone is that when you're faced with something that may not be able to handle, or what you perceive something that you may not be able to handle, the question is, who do you run to first? Who is your go-to in these types of situations? Anybody got an answer? No?
Slikha Moreh,
Uh-huh.
the father.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I was gonna say.
He's supposed to be the Father. That's right. All right. Now let's talk about your temperament. A person's disposition, especially as shown in mental or emotional responses. Elohim's people should be of an even temperament. That's everybody in here, right? We all cool, calm, collected, right? Most of the time. Oh, you're supposed to say all the time. Uh-oh. Proverbs 16:32, Targums. The even-tempered is better than the warrior, and he that subdues himself is better than he that seizes a city, right? Your ruach is supposed to be an example of patience, right? Having patience and a controlled temper is honorable, right? To overcome our own passions requires more steady management. Now, when we talk about your enemies, talking about people that you got problems with, right? It's about being a warrior. Proverbs 14:29. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly. Being patient under trying circumstances, that's showing wisdom. But an impatient person who loses control of his temper reveals folly. What does folly mean?
Slikha Moreh, it means false.
It means what?
False.
It means false? Mm-mm.
Not true. Error.
Mm-mm. That's not folly.
Toda Moreh.
Uh-huh. Somebody, you the mic, go ahead.
Mischief.
It says foolishness, folly,
All right.
silliness.
Yeah, it's a lack of good sense. So when you all in your feelings and you get a temper, you're acting foolish. Now, believe me, look at this. Proverbs 14:17. A man of quick temper acts foolishly, and a man of evil devices is hated. And see what it says in Targums. Whoever's temper is short is considered a fool, and is hated by the man whose thought is long. All right. Anybody fools up in here, right? We keep our tempers in check. Ecclesiastes 7:9. Be not quick in your spirit or ruach to be angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools. All right. So it'd be foolish when you become angry. All right. Understanding anger. We are not going to be long here. Oh, hallelujah for once. Well, before we start this, and maybe we are going to be long. I'm going to ask this question. In your own words, what causes anger? And if you can't answer that one, let me answer this. Or from your experience, what do you think causes anger? Good. Hands up, please. Hands up. Okay, let's Nabat go first.
What causes anger? I would say is offenses. Something that offends you, and yeah, offenses.
Offenses, okay. Nanamana.
Miscommunication causes anger.
Okay. Mishael.
I also wanted to mention pride can cause anger,
Okay.
confusion.
Sometimes someone who steals something from you that you value.
Okay, we're gonna get them next.
I would say insecurities can cause anger. I guess like in certain situations or relationships, that can come about, can be angry over something,
Okay. Torian and Xavier.
People and confusion cause anger.
Okay. People that confuse you.
People and confusion. Like some people, some people will seek to make you angry, right? They'll target you to do so. And sometimes in the situations full of confusion, that can cause anger.
Okay. Xavier.
I would say pride and stress.
Okay. Sam, you can go ahead.
I
Should
say
understand.
stimuli or like a series of negative events.
Okay. Shoshana.
Can you hear me?
Sound like you're
Being
under a
taunted,
pillow.
mocked, or scorned, that could cause you to be angry.
Say it one more time.
Being taunted,
Being taunted.
mocked, or scorned.
Okay.
Okay, I said that one of the main things, that's scripture, that's the Father, that's all of us, is disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
When you're disobedient, it causes anger. I don't care if it's children, adults, the Most High, all of that. Disobedience causes anger.
Who's a good example of that? That'd be Shaul, wouldn't it? Go ahead. No. Oh, I'll be off. Go ahead. Being hungry, okay. Go ahead, Debbie. Is your mic on?
Being disrespected or feeling disrespected.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Okay, we get her next. Go ahead. Shemai. Mic on?
Other emotions can lead to anger.
Mhm.
Like frustration can lead to anger.
Oh, yeah. He said, Shoshana, go ahead. Your own reaction to outside stimuli. Okay. You say so somebody on
Okay,
YouTube?
on YouTube, this said, worried, maybe afraid.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All good answers. All right. Let's look at this for them. Anger is a natural instinctive response to threats. However, when it becomes difficult to control, causing you to say or do things that are hurtful or harmful to yourself or others, this is a sign of possible anger disorder. Now, there are several things that may trigger an anger response, and those are all the things that you all have said. And here are a few examples: stress, family problems, poor communication skills, and financial strain. Right? Additionally, some underlying conditions such as depression, substance abuse, or alcoholism may contribute to anger issues. While anger itself is not considered a disorder, when an individual becomes unable to control the symptoms of anger, or if those symptoms result in dangerous behavior, it may be considered an anger disorder. Other underlying disorders such as depression or substance abuse may contribute to feelings of anger as well. Now, there are different types of anger disorders. Identifying what type of anger you are experiencing and learning ways to address these issues can lead to improved physical and mental health. Throughout the rest of this lesson, we're going to see things when it comes to your physical and mental health when it comes to being angry. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at a couple of types of anger disorders. And I made sure I put it on the board this time. I know I forgot last week, but I did it this time. All right. The first one, uncontrolled anger. Anger is a normal human emotion. However, misplaced or uncontrolled anger can quickly become problematic. In fact, while short-term anger can be effective, long-term or uncontrolled anger can cause significant problems, both personally and professionally. Uncontrolled anger may manifest differently from one person to another. Some may quietly think about and focus on what makes them angry, while others may become easily angered and exhibit aggression or violent behavior. Like I said, when Moreh Chanan was talking, one person who did that a lot was Shaul. Right. So let's look at a couple of examples from him. 1 Samuel 20:30. Then Shaul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse, rebellious woman." Huh? I caught it. You weren't gonna make me say that. Do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame, and to the shame? I knew that was gonna happen when I put that up there first. Of your mother's nakedness. My goodness. 1 Samuel 18:8. And Shaul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. He said, "They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom?" And 1 Samuel 19:9-10. Then a harmful spirit of Ruah from Yahuah came upon Shaul as he sat in the house with his spear in his hand. And David was playing the lyre. And Shaul sought to pin David to the wall with the spear, but eluded Shaul so that he struck the spear into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. So all three instances, we see Shaul go from being just angry to emotionally abusive to being jealous and passive aggressive, all the way to open aggressive. Right? Shaul had major issues. So even today, we see some of these things in people we know, right? They go from one extreme to the next. And again, that's nobody in here, right? Don't nobody go to one extreme to the next, right? Okay, you say so. Remember, who will know the inner person. All right. The next one is going to be hardened or petrified anger. Now, it can be very frustrating when we feel someone has committed a wrong against us or owes us an apology, but the person doesn't admit it. For some, it is difficult to move forward. Holding on to unresolved feelings can lead to feelings of hatred or bitterness. This may result in being stuck or hardened in anger. And this is where we get passive aggressive behavior from as well. This is one of the ways it starts, right? So let's look at an example. This is 2 Samuel 16:5-13. This is coming out of the scripture. So they're going to use Dawid instead of David or Dawood, okay? And when sovereign Dawid came to Bahurim, it's a man's word? Well, it is. It's a man's word. Let's start over. And when sovereign Dawid came to Bahurim, he saw a man from the clan of the house of Shaul, whose name was Shimei, son of Gera, coming from there. He came out cursing as he came, and he pelted with stones Dawid and all the servants of sovereign Dawid. And all the people and all the mighty men were on his right and on his left. And this is what Shimei said as he cursed. Get out, O man of blood, and man of Belial, the devil, the adversary. Yahuah has brought upon you all the blood of the house of Shaul, in whose place you have reigned. And Yahuah has given the reign into the hand of Absalom, your son. And see, you are in your own evil, for you are a man of blood. And Abishai, the son of Suriah, said to the sovereign, why should this dead dog or worthless being curse my master, the sovereign? Please let me pass over and take off his head. All right. Verse 10, and the sovereign said, and what have I to do with you, you sons of Syria? For let him curse, even because Yahuah has said to him, curse Dawid. And who should say, why did you do that? And Dawid said to Abishai and all his servants, see how my son who came from my own body seeks my life. And how much more now this Benjaminite? Leave him alone and let him curse, for Yahuwah has spoken to him. If so be, Yahuwah does look on my affliction, and Yahuwah shall return good to me for his cursing today. And as Dawid and his men went in the way, Shimei walked alongside him on the hillside and cursed as he went and threw stones at him and kicked up dust. Now, about letting stuff go. That's not what he did, is it? So this man blamed Daud for Shaul's collapse in his reign, all right? Now with that, his hatred grew to the point where, he followed David and his men and got very open aggressive quickly, started throwing stuff, right? Like I said, this type of anger leads to open aggression, ready to take you out at any moment. All right. Now, this is also an example of leading and making your decisions with Yahuwah on your mind, right? Because David being who he was, he could have had Shimei taken out, but he didn't, right? Just like he didn't when it came to Shaul. That love and respect he had for the father, he used that same logic when it came to Shimei. All right. We used to say it all the time when something like that, you're supposed to let it go, right? This is a good example of when you need to let it go and let the father take control, not doing things on your own terms. We talked about that in all the other lessons too, right? The father still needs to be the center of everything that you say and do, even in situations like this, where he could have easily just let his servants go ahead and take Shimei out, right? Controlled anger. Go ahead.
So, question in that scenario, what was the standard of righteousness that Dawid used to, I guess, giving him a pass?
What do you mean the standard of righteousness?
Meaning you like you say, he could have took him out, but
like
he
I said,
decided
he put the father first. Because remember, he had the same opportunity to do it through Shaul, didn't he?
right. But what I'm saying is like, he, like you say, he put the father first. So what is in the father's word, I guess, that said, you know what, I'm gonna let him rock? That helped him make that decision.
What's in the father?
Because he was cursing him,
Right.
and he was cursing him falsely. So what was the deciding factor to say, okay, I'm gonna let that rock, I'm gonna let that go?
So in this case, I'm tracking with you. So David didn't do anything, but let's just say this person is cursing David. David takes the high road, meaning he's believing that Yah is going to take care of him. Yah is going to fight his battle. You can't curse something that Yah is not going to allow. You see what I mean? So for David, if he's already has a protection on David and he tried to curse him, it's not going to work. So if David knows that, then he takes the high road. He takes the humble approach because he knows that in Yah has him. You mean like Job? You know what I mean, remember how Job, he was like, well, you got a hedge of protection around him. Take that thing off and see if he'll curse you. So there are certain things there that people may think they can do to Yah's people, but they can't.
Look what he said in verse 12. Says, so if it be, Yahuwah does look on my affliction, and Yahuwah shall return good for me for this cursing today. He's going to have to do that, not David. He can't take himself into his own hands, which leads us to the next one. All right. Vengeful anger. All right. Scripture teaches that it is wrong to strike back or to return evil for evil, whether it be immediate retaliation or by taking revenge later. Justice must be done, but this must be left in the hands of Yahuwah. It's not uncommon to feel angry when someone has wronged you, but vengeful anger occurs when the ability to let go of or address the situation becomes overwhelmed by an obsession to have revenge on the person who has committed the wrong, perceived or real. So vengeful anger can cause both physical and emotional symptoms, including obsessive thoughts, high stress levels, and increased risk for cardiac problems. But besides that part right there, this is basically what Dawid was saying. He's like, look, I know I ain't doing nothing wrong, so I'm just going to go ahead and let the father handle it, right? All right. Well, we can also know that Absalom, right? Remember, he had something to do with this too, with vengeful anger, right? And we saw that was a passive aggressive trait. And remembering that, passive aggressive people are very, very dangerous because you don't see it coming. Remember? There's always a disconnect between what a passive aggressive person says and what he or she does. Talked about the inner versus the outer all the time. Right? All right. Deuteronomy 32 and 35. We should know this by heart. Vengeance is mine and recompense for the time when their foot shall slip, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and their doom comes swiftly. That still goes back to verse 12 of what Dawood was saying. Right? He could have took vengeance out on him, but there was no need to, consider he knew that he ain't do nothing wrong. All right. So why would you go off and do something that the Father already told you shouldn't be doing in the first place? Let me handle that. All right. Leviticus 19:18, you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuah. Remember, we went through all that in the last two lessons about love and what it means to love your fellow man. Huh? We all remember that. We even said it was commanded, didn't we? Okay. All right. Proverbs 20 and 22. Do not say I will be paid. We pay evil. Wait for Yahuah and he will deliver you. So that whole question was this whole next slide. Right? All right. Ooh. Can nobody hear you? Can nobody hear you? Can nobody hear you?
No, I'm just thinking he's the king, so he has the authority. You know what I'm saying? So what was the deciding factor? But that scripture pretty much answered it about the vengeance.
But like he told his servant, he said, what am I to do with how you feel about what this man doing? Because he already knew he didn't do anything wrong, right?
So what are some examples of evil for evil?
Good question. They might got to ask.
Moreh Dawood has a question or has an answer.
Okay, Moreh Dawood.
I just want to address the question that was before, with the character of King David. Could it just be that, he just understood his position in life and being a king and making rash decisions to kill people wouldn't be the best for the kingdom in his position?
He could have, and we'll talk about rashness in a second. So Toriah, you got an answer for the evil to evil?
Yeah, something like if you sleep with my wife, I go sleep with yours. That's evil for evil.
Do you have examples of scripture? Okay. Anybody else? Oh, Shemaiah.
Somebody smacks you, you smack them back.
That's open aggression.
I mean,
That's a.
Well, I think we're overlooking something with the David story, right?
What are we looking?
You're overlooking something. What was going on? Why was David?
We read that
outside
before.
anyway.
We read that the week before. What
was he doing? What was going on?
Yeah,
why wasn't he at a place of residence?
Absalom, his son, took his place because he felt that Dawood did not do what he wanted him to do to his brother because of what his brother did to his sister. So it was anger, revenge, and I don't know, mad, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so who allowed that?
They will allow it to go on for him to get these things happen to him because of his action that he did not take. So
I'm trying to go back further.
Further?
So who set the sentence?
Yahuah.
Yahuah told him the sword would not leave your house. So now he's under punishment. He's under his judgment. So he's on the run now because of what he done. Then he continued with the actions of his son. This is just a progressive thing. So now he's on the run and he's under Yahuah's judgment. Now somebody comes along, don't like him and starts saying some nasty things about him. He said, well, this is just the way, this is part of the judgment. So why am I going to lash back at Yahuah? Because I'm under the judgment. I'm under judgment. Let's always remember that. Don't just get tunnel vision on the scripture that we're dealing with. Think about the whole picture. How did we get here? How did he get there? Determine some of the things that why he's doing what he's doing.
Okay, so so when you think about evil for evil, a lot of times we see it like, you did this to me, I did this to you. So evil can come physically, right? Evil for evil can come physically. It can come mentally, right? Meaning you did this to me, and then this person, because this person was done to you, you're going to do it to them. And then sometimes they really think they're justified because it was done to them. So they feel like they can do that back to them. So it's like evil for evil. And then it also, as you were sharing earlier, sometimes it's not right away. Sometimes a person can be evil and that person waits later and then gets them back and make it seem like, you know, the other thing didn't affect them, when in reality it did affect them. So evil for evil works in a lot of different ways, even, you know, in scripture, among ourselves. And as they were sharing earlier, sometimes it's even perceived as evil. Like if someone's doing something, I know a lot of us could probably say, we're all in the walk, we're not trying to be evil to each other. Whereas one person may be doing it and not see it as evil, but the person receiving it feels like it is evil. So there comes this miscommunication, and then what winds up happening is they render evil for evil.
Okay, can I ask a question with that? Is it just like premeditated? Premeditated, evil?
All right, so you're saying, is it premeditated?
Yeah, it's in your mind, and if somebody done did something or done did something to your family or someone that you know, you cooking it up in your mind, I'm gonna get back at that person because he did evil. Can it be like
There's a flavor of that,
Yeah.
for sure. The difference though is knowing if the person that's initially doing it, is his intent evil?
Right.
Because when you give it back, you are giving it back evil, but that person may not have been trying to give it to you evil. So, you know, now, of course, we're talking about the world. Sure, they can do evil for evil. But I'm just saying for us, since we're trying to make this personal with believers, we need to think about it is make sure that that person is not doing that. And if that person is doing that, then he needs to make that known. Or if that person's receiving it that way, they also should make that known.
Okay, this is I'm trying to base it off of the refuge that they had to build for the people who was but may have killed someone or in city of refuge. I tried to look at that. Is that a way of evil against evil? If somebody has not done something, but you got it in your mind that they have done something.
No. So for the city of refuge, if someone does something by mistake, the whole point of the city of refuge is because he didn't do anything wrong. But if he accidentally killed your son or your daughter, I mean, accidentally, literally, it was an accident. You may not see it as an accident.
Right.
So that person is going to the city of refuge because they recognize it as an accident, but that person did not.
You know, on this flip side of that, if you did do something and try to go there, yeah, they're going to pull you up on out of there. Yeah. All right, Nanamana.
Shalom, Moreh. So basically, evil is tit for tat. It's like, you know, tit for tat. It's planning. It's plotting and planning. Whether it is you know, physical or spiritual or even emotional evil. You know, people can plan to be, you know, vengeful, even though we're not supposed to be vengeful towards our brethren. But it's always tit for tat. You did this to me, I'm going to do this to you. Like you're basically one-upping. From what I understand it, it's, you know.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Yeah. Okay. And we talked about that, right? We talked about that. Go ahead.
This kind of reminds me of what Mashiach said about and I don't know if it applies, so let me know about what he said. You heard it say eye for an eye, but he said anybody who, you know, hates his brother, whatever the case may be. So is this kind of like in the same ballpark of what we're talking about?
You saying an eye for an eye?
No, Mashiach addressed what he said. They say that, an eye for an eye, which is in the Torah. And then he was like, you hate if you hate your brother, you've like something like you already something, I forget exactly what he said specifically, but is that what I'm talking about? That
No, it's all new to me. I want you to get all of that out.
That's why I haven't repeated. So we said an eye for an
All right,
eye.
but meanwhile, while you're gonna get it, I definitely know what you're talking about. But my point though is that in scripture there is a thing where there's a righteous scales, a balanced scales, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That's literally like a balanced scales of righteousness.
This ain't it.
But when you deal with, hating your brother and you want to do something back to him, sure, I definitely agree with what you're sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't righteous. This is all negative. All right, this is a negative stuff that you're not supposed to do. Is Google your friend? Oh, okay. Okay.
So Slika Moreh, an example of like the righteous judgment in doing evil towards someone because of what they've done to you would be an example of what Lewi did with Dina, when she was raped and then they went back for recompense. Would that be righteous for righteous?
Who did that?
No,
Levi?
No. We gonna get to that. That's not righteous. That wasn't righteous, brother. We gonna get to that. Hold on. Y'all jumping ahead a little bit. Let's talk about chronic anger first. Hold on. Y'all jumping ahead. Woo, no, that wasn't righteous at all, man. Chronic anger. Individuals who find it difficult to overcome anger or fit the habitual anger profile may be experiencing chronic anger. Chronic anger may lead to health concerns such as cardiovascular disease or hypertension. You can make yourself sick being angry at somebody. Now, the body's response to anger. Internal and external factors can influence the body's response to different stimuli. Anger can cause both physical and emotional responses in individuals. Physical symptoms, the brain, the heart, and the muscular system of the body are all affected by anger. Remember, we talked about the heart, right? The heart, also used figuratively very widely for the feelings, the will, and even the intellect. Likewise, for the center of everything, right? Your heart and your mind are contribute to being your inner self, right? That refers to the central organ of the body and the inner person, generally as the seat of emotions, desires, or the will. So this can affect you mentally and physically, this anger thing, right? It can become a real problem in both worlds. A person who is angry may feel tingling sensations or muscle tension. Also, there is a chance of increased heart rate and high blood pressure, which you all know is a silent killer. All right. Emotional symptoms. Anger is one emotion that can cause other emotional symptoms. Before, during, or after an episode of anger, an individual may experience frustration, irritability, stress, or guilt. You have a question? Go ahead.
So we see how an emotion can cause physical and spiritual damage. So these emotions and things like that, what part of the body is it? The nervous system that contains these things? The nervous system.
So yeah, it is your nervous system, your blood, because think about it, you can get headaches, blood pressure going up, but yeah, definitely nervous system has a major part to do with it, but your blood for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what makes all that blood go everywhere? Which is the center.
Right, and then you got still think about your muscles. People tense up, they get
That's what
mad,
it said,
angry,
right?
all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Muscles start tensing, you get tingly inside. Go ahead.
Question, does that happen just to the adults and not the children?
No. Oh, no.
Well, I didn't have that when I was younger.
As a child, oh, you had a great life.
Excuse me, but I had a terrible anger problem. I hated myself back then. I fought teachers. I fought students. I fought the bus driver. I just fight. But I didn't have none of those side effects.
You need to meet me in the
was
prayer
evil.
room. You gotta-
Right, but the thing is, when you said these side effects, some of these things you could have had, meaning your pressure could be high, but you're young.
Yeah, you're young, right?
You see, so you're not looking at it as like say heart problems, but your blood is rushing at the time, and over time it could be something that could be affecting the person at a later time. You know what I mean?
Go ahead, Moreh Chanan.
I was just saying with the physical aspects, when you get angry, also endorphins are released into the brain. Those endorphins are just as they're just as significant as if you had the emotion of being happy, you know. So there's a chemical release in the body as well that comes along with these emotions. And I just also wanted to ask also, how as believers, because we read in the scriptures how David was a warrior. How do you make that switch? How you turn off from taking out your enemy to turn it back to this peaceful person?
You have to have your control on the anger. Remember, we're supposed to have an even temperament in any situation that we're facing. That's what we read that one about that. Well, you see how even and controlled he was, even though he's being cussed out. All right. There's other scenarios that he went through, and I just want to put it on David, but he's a good example of being controlled in stressful situations. That's all because he put the Father first. He remembered his father's words, and therefore that's what he used in order to keep himself under control.
Right, just like king, when you're a king of a nation, you can't just be flying off the handle at will.
Right.
He said you have to be able to exercise control.
Can't hear you, man. I know the windows ain't open, are they? No. Okay.
So these are also attributes of being a husband. I mean, I'm sure being the head of anything, but especially being the husband in your household, you also got to have that control.
Say it ain't so. Yeah. No, you're right. I was being sarcastic.
Shlika Moreh.
Yes.
Is it fair to also say age plays a factor also?
I would say maturity.
Yeah, age, maturity, wisdom, all those.
Remember in that verses before I said that having wisdom is honorable. Right? Go ahead, Nanamana.
Shalom, Murray. I was just thinking, because we are essentially that we live in the world. We're not of the world. We follow Torah and do what the Most High tells us to do. But when we leave our homes, we go out into this world. We got to remember, authorities and the world plays by their own set of rules. And when we have to often, flip back and forth also. We might be, minding our own business, and then someone, a Gentile, whatever, can like curse, yell and scream at us and say just horrible things at us, and at that time it's like, okay, you gotta maintain control, don't, verbally assault them as well as they verbally assault you. You just kind of walk away unless they get physical. Well, that's different. So it's like we have to also do what David do. He's got to be calm, cool, and collected. But when it's time for him to.
All right, I'm so sorry. If you could have got that in within the last couple of seconds. All right. So a question is anger bad? So no, anger is not bad.
It's not.
And sometimes anger is warranted. It's just, as everyone knows, that be angry but don't sin. So yeah.
Don't let the light go down on your day. Right? All right. Let's keep it going. Uh-oh. Oh. She got to put her hands up. Uh-oh. Yeah, y'all didn't. That's it, assertiveness. Okay. How anger is manifested. Anger is manifested in different ways. An individual's beliefs regarding anger and how they should conduct themselves may affect the way anger is expressed. Usually, anger is expressed in one of three ways: inward, outward, and passive. Now, for the inward anger that an individual directs toward themselves. It involves negative self-talk and often blaming oneself for events real or perceived. In an effort to gain control, some individuals may deprive themselves of things that will otherwise make them happy as a form of punishment for perceived bad behavior. Other examples of inward anger manifestation include isolation and self-harm. Now, this is Sharad Wheel right here. Outward anger involves behavior that may seem like an oblivious sign of anger, right? Obvious sign of anger. These behaviors often include shouting, cursing, breaking things, or becoming physically or verbally abusive to others. And then the one that we deal with the most is passive anger. And this is exhibited by an individual using indirect or subtle ways to express dissatisfaction. A person who is showing passive anger may be sarcastic, make rude remarks, sulk, or give someone the silent treatment. Any questions so far? All right, let's keep it moving. All right. Questions before I do that. Has anyone here ever displayed any open aggression? And if not, can any that's open-ended question, right? If not, can anyone tell me what they think open aggression encompasses? What is it made up of? Or you can ask another question. Somebody tell me sometime when they felt that they were open aggressive. Go ahead. Go ahead. Hey, look, we all family. We all family. You said blur out the names. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, at one point in time in my younger days, I used to punch holes
2 years
in the
ago.
wall.
I got it. Go ahead.
My younger days, I used to when I used to get angry, I used to punch holes in the wall.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's open. That's open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was pretty bad.
Mhm.
Hence is why football was a very good outlet because I could express outward anger in a
Mhm.
very controlled manner.
You just paralyze somebody else. I get it.
Nah. It wasn't the intent to hurt them. It was just to make sure they didn't come in the game.
Right.
Yeah, they'd be all right for the next game. Yeah, they can set the rest of the game out. They'd be back for the next game.
So what does open aggression encompass? What somebody give me some examples of what makes open aggression what it is.
You said what does it accomplish?
Encompass. What's it made up of?
Oh, like you said, fighting, cussing folks out, throwing things, yelling. I don't think
So, go ahead. Imogen first, and then you.
Sometimes it could come from hurt feelings. Somebody could say something to you and it hurt your feelings, and there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just an emotional reaction. A rash emotional reaction, typically.
I would say a certain level of immaturity and not being able to control yourself.
Okay, so I heard immaturity. That's all I heard.
Yeah, get the cord.
Oh,
yeah, it's a cord.
okay. No, I was saying certain level of
That's even worse.
That's worse. Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Certain level of immaturity, just not being able to control your emotions or your anger.
Okay. That's good. Okay.
And I'm speaking from experience.
Oh. You need to go to prayer room too. I got it. We're gonna have a prayer session today. Violence. Yeah. Oh, go ahead now, Ma. No.
I'm like, hello. Are you asking what it is, or you already got the thing up there? I don't want to look at it now. I mean,
Well, this is one. Yeah. Well, yeah. Kind of late.
well,
Mm-hmm.
open aggression is, man, I wish you would have asked me first. It comes out of like, bullying, fighting, like I was bullied, as a child. Um, you know, it, 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 sarcasm, you know, and people being really critical of me as a child. So, you know, hmm,
All right.
that's what it comes out as, you know, people expressing that type of emotion. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to open aggression, we want to look at violence, right? Behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. And similarly, we want to look at the brutality, the roughness, ruthlessness, or inhumanity, or destructiveness or something. All that is the complete opposite of gentleness, being kind, or showing a little bit of a weakness, right? Um, Also, we have the strength of the emotion, right? And similarly, you see, it might be the same to violence, but then you have vehemence. What does vehemence mean? You want to go syllable by syllable? Vehemence. What does it mean?
Is it like it's boiling over? It's very strong. Like if someone did something vehemently, like with great intensity. Yeah.
Nope. You just say odd in terms. That's it. All right. Right. The display of a strong feeling, right? A passion. You know, you have passion of your spirit, right? And all these are also violence. As you can see, it's a passion, it's a force, it's forcefulness, it's andor. Now, all this is the opposite of being mild and having apathy. Right? All right. We almost done. A forceful action or procedure such as an unprovoked attack, especially when intended to dominate or master. Number two, the practice of making attacks or encroachments, especially unprovoked violation by one country of the territorial integrity of another, warned that any act of aggression could start a war. Examples of aggressive behaviors include physical violence, such as biting, hitting, and kicking, verbal hostility, like sending threatening messages through emails, phone calls, or social media, or making threats against someone's life, shouting and swearing. Now, as an adult, you might act aggressively in response to negative experiences. For example, you might get aggressive when you feel frustrated. Your aggressive behavior may also be linked to depression, anxiety, or PTSD, like we said before, or other mental health issues. All right. Any questions so far? Almost done. PTSD. Open aggression is the most visible and obvious expression of anger. These are the explosive episodes, the yelling, the name calling, the blaming, and the physical violence. It is self-preservation of personal worth, needs, and convictions, but it comes at someone else's expense. It doesn't have to be explosive rage, though. It can also look like criticizing others, arguing, cutting others off with rebuttals, and using sarcasm. Often, open aggression stems from a place of being deeply wounded and mistreated in the past. You might have learned from your past experiences that the only way to get people to listen to you and take you seriously is to get loud and be intimidating. Open aggression feels powerful and prevents others from hurting you. It gives you control and it often feels like the only option available to you. After all, someone was wronging you. What were you supposed to do? Just sit back and take it? Your needs are legitimate and you are worthy of respect, but open aggression takes shape when you focus on your personal needs completely and focus on your personal needs completely overshadows the needs of others. The result is a blinding insensitivity that is incapable of taking another person's needs or perspective into account. Your hurt and your need is so great that it feels like you have the right to do whatever you can to protect yourself or get what you need. We all wrestle with this expression of anger at times. We respond to others without factoring in their needs far too often. We get so caught up in self-preservation or being right that we lose sight of the human beings we are hurting and trampling in the process. Now, this anger response only leads to more anger. It only hurts other people and reinforces that they will not treat you with the respect or kindness you long to receive. At best, you will be feared and avoided. At worst, you will drive others to respond with equal amounts of disdain and rage, or you will completely drive them away. Regardless, you are left completely alone and not respected or valued by anyone. Open aggression brings about the very things it is attempting to prevent. Others will come to resent you, combat you, disrespect you, respond insensitively to your needs, and ultimately reject you. There has to be another way of dealing with your anger. Can anyone give me an example of how we should deal with our anger? He ain't got no mic. Okay.
Well,
Go ahead, Nanamana. No. Go ahead, Nanamana.
Well, the first thing we need to do is, calm down. Just take a breath and calm down. Listen to that other person, and tell that other person, look, we're very upset right now. I think we need a break. Let's calm down so we can effectively hear one another, and often go in prayer and ask the Father for wisdom and guidance in handling this situation. But I think you need to just calm down and separate for a minute before attempting to communicate with that person, because neither one of you or either one of the persons will hear each other because of the yelling and screaming.
Okay. Go ahead.
Leave.
Say what now? Say leave. Period. That's it. All right. Who else?
Adipari and then Moreh Daoud.
You said who? Adipari? Go ahead.
I hope I'm saying his name right.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just relying.
You put their hand down. Okay. So Moreh Daoud.
Moreh Daoud.
Back up.
Or it depends on the situation and what's going on. Because, some things, yes, it is simple to walk away from and let cooler heads prevail. But in other things, it's like, your body's just naturally reacting to what has just transpired in front of you. And, I'm dealing with anger and trying to have that self-control you're talking about. You have to do prayer and things like that. That's what I have to say to it.
Before you go out there in that world, you got to pray about it. Yeah. But, self-defense is different, though. Yeah.
Brother Ardapari put his hand back up. If I'm saying your name wrong, please let me know.
Go ahead.
Shalom. Can you hear me?
It's my Colombian friend.
The Heavenly Father brought to us in the name of the Son. Shalom. It's been a long time without
Shalom.
being here.
Man, you're in your 60-second window, just so you know.
Okay, I'm gonna be very quick. I want to share. Right now, I am a resident city. As you know, I was in my hometown sharing the scripture with a lot of people saying, so be praised for him. When I was in my hometown, I experienced something very incredible. I was studying the scriptures with a group, and I left my car out of the house. And a kid come into the house. Hey, is the traffic is doing ticket? The police officer is doing a ticket. So I was like, man, this is not happen to me because I don't earn a lot with my work, and I was just paying the rent, buying a lot of stuff. So when I go outside, I was in some way mad, like this can happen to me right now. I was of the few persons that they was getting a ticket, and I get mad. I don't speed well, but when I was going to move my car, I was in my car, and I was like, man, this is not the way to handle this.
Oh man, I'm sorry. That was gonna be a good story. I understand, but you gotta have 6 seconds.
Don't worry, brother. I understand that.
Put in Telegram. I want to hear the story. Put in Telegram.
Okay. Shalom.
Yeah, I was reading the scriptures, and one of the characteristics of Yahuah is to be slow to anger. So it's another way of remembering that.
That should be the number one.
Because we're supposed to be little imitators of Yahuah. So we should be slow to anger.
I don't know how many times I put that in all the other slides. That should be the first thing you do is be slow to anger, slow to speak, right? Torian next. There we are.
Torah, we're starting your 60 seconds right now.
He said, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
now we can.
you 8 seconds in.
No.
All
Restart it. Go ahead.
Appreciate that. So it's I was always told there's different levels of anger. So when you're in a situation, if you get to the first stage of anger, that's when you start to diffuse.
Are you
kind of say,
drowning?
okay, wait a minute. We don't want this to elevate. Let's stop it here, or let me.
I need you to start over. I could barely hear you.
Oh, okay. So there's different stages of anger. So what you're supposed to do, and when you hit the first stage, it's supposed to start to diffuse. That's when you're saying, okay, this is about to get escalated. So we either need to come to a solution or we need to deal with it at another time. You're never supposed to let it get to the point where you're enraged. That's like it's overbearing. So that's when you're supposed to stop it at step 1 or 2. Walk away, come back, or just try to diffuse.
Okay. Now, how do we control that? That should be the next question. Elohim enables us to control their temper, right? Keep in step with the Ruach, right? Galatians 5:16-18. But I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other to keep you from doing the things you want to do. But if you are led by the Spirit of Ruach, you are not under law. No, they ain't gonna answer that question. Galatians 5:22-24. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And those who belong to Yahushua HaMashiach have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. So yes, be slow to anger and all that, but here, what is governing your Ruach? That goes back to all the first couple lessons we did about doing your foundation. Remember that? Doing your foundation, make sure the walls don't blow over with all those winds that are coming in and out of you. It's all coming to this point right here. All right. I'm supposed to be a light in the world, right? Philippians 2:12-13. Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, so now not only as in my presence, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is Elohim who works in you, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Right? Simply put, we should be living according to his will and purpose for our lives. That's that whole putting him in the center of everything. All right. Yeah, we go here. All right, being rash. All right, rash, displaying or proceeding from a lack of careful consideration of the possible consequences of inaction. And similarly, is someone that's being reckless, impetuous, impulsive, and foolhardy. Right? It's all opposite of being careful, cautious, and prudent. And rash also means acting without careful consideration of the possible consequences. All right. All right. So, Uzziah's pride and punishment. This is 2 Chronicles 26:16-20. When he was strong, he grew proud to his destruction. For he was unfaithful to Yahuah, his Elohim, and entered the temple of Yahuah to burn incense on the altar of incense. But Azariah, the priest, went in after him with 80 priests of Yahuah who were men of valor. And they withstood King Uzziah and said to him, is it not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to Yahuah, but for the priests, the sons of Aharon, who are consecrated to burn incense? Go out of the sanctuary, for you have done wrong, and it will bring you no honor from Yahuah. Then Uzziah was angry. Now he had a censer in his hand to burn incense, and when he became angry with the priests, leprosy broke out on his forehead in the presence of the priest in the house of Yahuah by the altar of incense. And Azariah, the chief priest, and all the priests looked at him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead. And they rushed him out quickly, and he himself hurried to go out because Yahuah had struck him. Wow. Yahuah. Right? Was this not rash behavior? Power led to pride, which proved to be his downfall, right? He began to depend on himself rather than Yahuah. He did what? He started acting without careful consideration of possible consequences of his actions. And the culmination of that was what? Yahuah struck him. All right. All right. So to your point, when you saying you were asking, was the actions of Simeon and Levi righteous? Let's read it and see. On the third day, when they were sore, two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and came against the city while it felt secure and killed all the males. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the sword and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went away. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and plundered the city because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds, their donkeys, and whatever was in the city and in the field. All the wealth and all their little ones and their wives, all that was in the houses, they captured and plundered. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me stink to the inhabitants of the land. The Canaanites and the Perizzites, and the Perizzites. My numbers are few. And if they gather themselves against me and attack me, I shall be destroyed, both I and my household. But look what they said here. But they said, should he treat our sister like a prostitute? So again, is this a righteous act? Or was this a rash decision that they made?
Okay, so in looking at the totality and hearing the whole matter, I would definitely say it was overkill. They went way above and beyond what they should have. So in other words, that's what made it an unrighteous act. Because I would think that they would be justified in defending their sister, but to go to that level of destroying not just the people who did it, but their families and their entire town, that's a whole nother level.
Now, understand there was another side to this, look at what Jacob said, for it could bring serious repercussions on him and his family, right? But the brother simply replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? So what were they doing? They're thinking about themselves, right?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, I think in Leviticus, and it's so many of those concepts about a man taking hold of I know she was a virgin. Yeah, and if a man sees a maiden and she's out in the field and nobody answer, but if it found out that the man is that done this, he would have been stoned. He would have been killed for doing that when nobody heard her cry out. So to me, not the whole people there, they wiped out, but those two who did it.
Well, let's talk about what actually happened. What happened when they found out? Well, Sal's getting upset. What happened?
They made they said if you and all your men get circumcised.
No. Before that.
Oh, even before that? Well, she was going out to whatever they had going on. She said, I want to
Who met with who? How about we say that?
Oh.
Who met with who?
She met with him.
She went to go see the women of the land, correct? So and my question is, she wasn't raped, was she? Like by force? It wasn't like a forceful thing, was it? Did she? So
okay, we're going on a whole nother realm here.
So she I thought it was what's the word? I thought it was consensual.
No, it wasn't. She didn't cry out like you said. but there is a protocol for that. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
Right.
she should never been alone with him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Are you gonna do? Are you gonna cover a better sheet 49?
I thought she was,
Huh? Are you not?
I thought she went to see the women of the land. It did not say that she went out to see the men.
But she was by herself. Yeah. She was by herself. Go ahead.
So are you asking like, how did they get to this situation?
No, I was just trying to respond to what she was saying. It hasn't nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Oh.
But I'm just talking about the actual procedure in which, you know, they were supposed to do. That's why they met with
Yeah,
her
they met with
father
Jacob.
and the brother, because now you had to try to work something out.
Yeah, that was after he
The
took
Torah covers that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
what
then
I'm
he-
saying. That was the proper protocol at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if she doesn't cry out, that does that not indicate that it was more consensual?
No, sir.
So basically, in terms of, I guess the question, like, why is this open aggression? The situation open
No,
aggression?
this has nothing to do with what she asked. She asked a totally separate question.
It was off topic.
It was off. Yeah, it was off topic.
That-
What we
that
talking
so
about
kind
is
of
the
off
act,
topic.
what the actions of the brothers, was that righteous? All right.
Now-
Was that a rash situation?
Yes and no.
Why is it yes and no?
Because one, they acted on emotion, but they also kind of schemed it too. They said, you know what, we're gonna tell them to get circumcised, and then you know when they weak, we're gonna get them. They were still acting on emotion.
That's
so it
not a
was-
rash decision.
I mean, yeah, it's rash, but it was like premeditated too.
This is what Yaakov had to say about it at the end of the day, when he was getting ready to close his eyes, put his feet back in the bed. So he says, Simeon and Levi are brothers, weapons of violence with their swords. He said, may I never come into their counsel. May I not be joined to their company. For in their anger, they killed men. So that's unrighteous. That's what Daddy said.
Look at this here.
Eris has his hand up.
Eris, go ahead, Eris. 60 seconds there.
Okay, Shalom. I think that we need to also put in perspective that the prince also act in a wrong behavior, because for the feeling of sleeping with a woman, he don't put in consideration that he was going to put his own people in danger. That was happening with Simon and Levi. But also, Simon and Levi, they don't put in perspective that if they were feeling bad for their sister, how was feeling Jacob, that was the father, you know? And they don't took the consideration of the feeling of the father. So there was wrongdoing from both sides and aim in a slaughter of many people at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Ken and the other side admitted they're wrong. My son was wrong. He shouldn't have did this. Can we make this right?
That was the proper protocol at that point. That's what they were supposed to do. But the brothers gonna take it into their own way, right? So remember, we're talking about acts of aggression, right? The practice of making attacks or encroachments, especially unprovoked violation by one country of the territorial integrity of another, warned that any act of aggression could start a war. That's what Yaakov was saying. And listen, you didn't put this whole family in jeopardy of being killed off because of your rash decisions, right? Remember, open aggression feels powerful and it prevents others from hurting you. It gives you control and it often feels like the only option available to you. After all, someone was wronging you, right? So they put themselves in that position and made it about themselves, right? What were you supposed to do? Just sit back and let it and take it, right? All right. With that, any questions, comments, or concerns? Yay. Yay. No?
Right?
Yeah.
Are you going to continue with this lesson?
That is up to the Father. That is up to the Father.
I pray you continue. I'm learning a lot. I pray that it's in our Yahuah's will that you continue. that he gives you
Hallelujah.
the, gives you the wisdom to continue this lesson. Hallelujah. Baruch Hashem
Oh, yeah,
Yahuwah.
hallelujah. We will see next month or the month after next. Any other questions? Go ahead.
In one of the slides, it had cutting people off as a form of open aggression. How do you stop yourself from doing that, or train yourself to stop doing that? You listen to somebody, you don't agree, or you think they're wrong, and you're like, no, I absolutely not. How do you stop yourself to be silent and then
Well, that's
let them finish?
self-control. You have to recognize that you're doing that, number one, and try to correct that. That's just a learning process. Remember, you have to have that even temperament, right? Can't be so brash, especially when you're speaking to somebody, especially if it's your brother or your sister. We're supposed to have a cool, calm, collected dialogue with each other. What happened? Somebody else? Xavier.
Shalom. I just want to say I agree. This is definitely a great message. And one of the things that came to my mind was just, this is more of a reason that we need to continue to exercise, walking in the spirit. Because one of the things I could compare it to as an analogy is, you can't do exercise one day and then 2 months later expect to be in the same shape. You got to continue with the regimen in order to stay in shape. So this is definitely something that came to my heart, was like, this is one of the reasons why you have to exercise, stay in the spirit. So when those situations do come, you're fit, you're ready to go.
Hallelujah. Repetition. Eris.
I believe that it's very important always to understand that we need to learn, remember that we are students, Abba is the master, and wherever come to our life, that is the will of Yah. So if that is the will of Yah, we need to put in perspective what he wants to teach me through this thing that I experience right now. And we need to learn to conquer our feelings. That's what the scripture say, be angry and sin not. We need to learn to manage our feeling in order to behave in a righteous way.
Hallelujah. Anyone else? All right, our hearts and minds are clear. Sharat Yahuah, you are up, sir.